Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn, and on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business and share them with us so we can learn as well. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Aashi Arora. She's the owner of iRISE Executive Coaching, providing individual coaching services, team coaching services, workshops, retreat facilitation, and speaking engagement. So, Aashi, it's great having you here. And I want to start off with asking you a question that I always love to start off with, which is this. If you were able to somehow go back to when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. It's great to be here and talking with you about all things about business ownership or wherever our conversation may lead. I would say the one piece of advice that comes to mind is be the tortoise, not the hare. And this
Mm.
is kind of a philosophy my dad lived by and would often mention it. And I didn't really understand it till at least about 5 years into my business, where I don't believe I spent enough time really thinking through the strategy of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. It was more of the throw the darts at the dartboard approach, just see what sticks. And it wasn't really much for strategic planning in a sense. And I think that's a trap that a lot of business owners get into. We just
Mm.
try to do it all. We run around trying to figure out like what's going to work. And there's still a lot of great learning in that. It's that I would say, like, especially if you have a lot of the experience coming into the profession that you're running your business in, which is really critical actually to have. Trust that you have that experience and trust that you need to go deep in a few areas instead of trying to do it all.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really interesting because when we start off, we're looking to grow fast and do amazing things. Even when we're well established, whenever I think we're looking at, what we're wanting to do over the next 1 to 2 years, there's always that speed. We got to get there. We got to get things done.
Yeah.
Um, what are some things that you've learned in that process that helps you not slow down the growth? That's not the question I'm asking, but it's more about helping you internally, mentally slow down to be able to build the long-term business as opposed to trying to build it fast, but maybe make a lot of mistakes along the way that end up not working very well.
One of the key lessons I've learned is, for example, when you're doing marketing, sales, and that's like a key part of, well, first of all, actually, even going further back from that, find something about marketing that you love. I find oftentimes, whether it's coaches, consultants, service providers, that the first thing they say is like, I love what I do. I just can't stand marketing, right? I can't stand the sales side. I can't stand like trying to figure out where my next client is coming from. And I would say, like, try to reverse engineer it and find a way of doing, like, taking a marketing approach that you do like, that you can enjoy. And once you identify that, even if it's like a few key strategies within that approach, give it time, go deep with it.
Mm.
I've tried just about everything that's out there, and not I think one of the mistakes I made was constantly like doing a bunch of things again and seeing what's stuck instead of really going deep into a few things. So for example, I do well with connecting with people. And so networking is a key part of my marketing strategy.
Mm.
And so making sure I'm doing reach outs with people I already know that I've worked with, clients I've had in the past, even friends and family that I'm reaching out and I'm actually having not only conversations of, hi, how are you? But also, by the way, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm looking for. Do you know anyone I can talk to, kind of thing.
Mm.
And that networking approach has yielded me far more potential clients and leads than spending a lot of time writing blogs, which for a long time was really painful for me. So now I write them as I feel them, but for the most part, it's not part of my, big part of my marketing strategy, because that time that I can spend thinking of the people I can talk to and having those conversations is far more effective.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think um, it can be challenging when you hear a lot of different things and, a lot of new things that are supposed to be working. Do this, do that, jumping around. If it's in alignment with the overall strategy, fantastic. But I do see a lot of businesses trying to do lots of stuff, and I love what you're saying around that, Asha, is that you're diving deep into that and becoming almost an expert in your own way of what you're doing in the marketing, which I think is absolutely phenomenal and a great perspective on how to do that, which is really, really good. If you look back over the course of your business, one of the things that I love to ask, because I think it's as business owners, we all go through challenges, and oftentimes we think we're the only one that deals with this particular issue, whatever it might be. And so I love asking this question because I think when we hear it, we're like, oh, okay, we're not the only one that deals with this stuff. But what's the number one biggest challenge that you've dealt with so far in your business? And what were the lessons that you learned from that?
Oh, niching, niche. So I would say that, especially as an executive coach, and this is something time and time again, as I meet other coaches, I see them fall into that trap. I even teach in the College of Executive Coaching. So I help other coaches as they're developing and growing their businesses. I find that we often fall in the trap of, oh, I could coach anyone for anything.
Mm,
Yeah. And while, okay, maybe some of that is true, not completely, what happens is it becomes really difficult for you to stay top of mind. And so it's one, it's like niche, not identifying what your niche is, not figuring out really like what you're an expert at doing and what pain problem you're solving. And that really took me, Jason, I kid you not, it took me like 5 years to figure this out. I could have
yeah.
spent so much time actually getting really qualified leads rather than kind of running around again, that dartboard analogy, just seeing what stuck. And what I mean by what stuck, what kind of client it was that I was serving. So when I started off my business, I said, oh, I can coach anyone in healthcare. Okay, that's great. Like that was my executive leadership career before I became a full-time business owner and coach. And that's fine. You pick a sector, but that's not really telling you about a pain point. What are you going to help solve for people? Then I went into, okay, I can coach for people with imposter syndrome. Well, great and all, but a lot of people don't even realize they have it. Right. So
Yeah.
over time, I figured out actually my sweet spot is conflict. When people are in conflict, they're having internal conflict about where their career's headed. They're having conflict with others around them. They're having conflict because they feel like they're in a toxic work environment, or organizations where they are feeling the conflict from an individual leader
Mm,
who is, the disruption and the disruptive behaviors are making it difficult for others to work around them. And once I started really narrowing that message down, I still got clients that don't always fall under that bucket, but it helps me stay top of mind.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so when you pick a niche, it's not that you are like it's not necessarily, and this is a way to kind of think of it starting off, it's not that you're going to exclude others, it's that it helps you stay top of mind for people knowing how to refer you or understanding where your expertise lies. That helps build trust, and therefore they're going to come closer to you. And I'm sure, Jason, in the work you do, like, this is pretty commonplace.
Well, I was just gonna say, just preach. Like, it's like everything you're saying, I'm like, yes, yes, it's so true. But it's such a it's such a common issue, I think, that people have because you it's counterintuitive. And if you ask, quote unquote, friends and family, which I think is one of the worst things to do if they're not expert in their own business or something like that, because they're gonna give generalist advice, which the generalist advice, which logically makes sense, just market to everybody because your market's bigger. But actually, it's the worst thing you can do. It's the
Oh, it's
absolute worst
true.
thing you can do. But then there's this restriction that you feel, and people can feel it in their chest or in their throat
Yep.
almost when they talk about it. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, but what about I narrow my niche? It's like, no, you don't actually. Like you, as you said, you become more of an authority in what you're doing. You get a lot more clear on what you're doing. It doesn't mean you can't help other people. Everything begins to land a lot more. So I love it. I love what you're saying on that. I'm like, yes, just keep going. That's amazing. Well, that's absolutely brilliant stuff. Well, if you look at over the next, say, 2 to 3 years of your own business, what are you looking to achieve? What are your goals?
Peace.
Peace. Okay. In
Yeah,
what
yeah,
way?
peace. When I first started, I was hitting I was after a certain revenue target. And I'm like, I'm just gonna keep driving until like I hit that revenue target, I hit that revenue target. And I hit certain ones, and then I
Mm,
went, you know what? What does it take out of my personal life and my health and well-being to hit that? And am I necessarily happier? So what I've started realizing, and this might also because of the decade I'm entering in my life, I no matter how much money you make, you will find ways to spend it. And is that really going to give you that happiness and that peace you're looking for? So when I look to the future, I'm like, I'm looking for peace in my business, which means predictable systems, a predictable way of getting leads, a predictable way of like servicing those clients, keeping to a certain boundary around the type of clients I'm going to serve, and see what happens. And so,
yeah.
not make my goals around my business so revenue oriented, but more systems oriented. And so that I
Mm,
do feel like I'm just working 30 hours a week because that's what I want to do. And that's what's going to balance well with the rest of my life.
yeah. I love that. I love that. It's a unique answer as well. I don't think I've ever had anyone answer that, but it's a great way to look at it. And quite interestingly, I'll be a bet as you put more systems in, your revenue will increase
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
which is
And I
quite cool.
Yeah, and I think that's where the tortoise and the hare situation comes in, right? It's
Yeah.
like if I can slow down to really identify what I do well, repeat some of my processes, know what I need to continue to delegate out and get
Mhm.
support on, then wouldn't I just naturally grow the business in a way that feels
Yeah.
more organic and natural?
Yeah.
And I still maintain a lot of that energy to do all the
Yeah.
other things I want to do
Love that.
in my
Love
life.
that. That's amazing. I love hearing that. Well, actually, for people that are wanting to learn more about you and get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can email me, AASHI at iriseexecutivecoaching.com. You can check out my website, iriseexecutivecoaching.com. I'm also all over LinkedIn. Check it all the time. So message me there.
Amazing. Well, I definitely recommend everyone check out Ashi. Listen, everything that she said on this podcast, I fully endorse. I totally agree with her. Guys, listen to what she said. It's great. So, Ashi, thank you so much for being on the show. And as a reminder to everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everyone hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.